If you've been following me on this channel, you'll know that I've been working my way through the Bone Epic. And not just the epic proper, but also the additional auxiliary material. Which brings me to the prequel to the epic Bone Saga, which is Rose. This is the Bone prequel. So I suppose the question that you have to ask with every prequel is, did we actually need this? Or was the backstory more interesting when it was left to our imaginations? So I think this comes up with every prequel. The classic example would be the Star Wars prequels. Did we actually need those? Or was the backstory of Darth Vader more interesting when it was left to our imagination? Or was it more interesting when we actually got to see that transformation take place beat by beat? And the same question could be asked for this. This is the backstory of Rose, who is Grandma Ben in the Bone Epic, and her sister Briar, who I guess I'm just going to go ahead and jump into spoilers. Briar is Rose's sister, but turns out to be the bad guy in the Bone Epic because Briar has turned to the side of evil, or had turned to the side of evil. By the time the Bone Epic begins, Briar has already been evil for quite some time. So this is a prequel which explores their relationship as teenagers. And I don't know. Did we need this? I've mentioned a few times before that I first started using Bone when I was teaching English in Vietnam. I found some copies on the internet. I would transfer those copies into slideshow presentations and I would go through them with my class. And at one time, while I was working my way through the epic, I found out about the prequel, the Rose comic. And I got this idea that it might be interesting for my students to get the backstory at the same time they were reading the proper story, so that they could more fully appreciate the depth behind these characters. And I did that for about 3 lessons, and then I realized it probably wasn't all that great of an idea. And the reason was, everything that we need to know about the backstory is revealed in the epic proper. I mean, there is a backstory, but it's gradually revealed what has happened and what the characters' relationship to each other are as we go through the regular story. So we actually didn't need to see this played out in the prequel. So at that time, I stopped using the online copy of Rose, which I'd been using. I'd only gotten a few pages into it anyways, because it was an English as a second language class. We were working through it slowly. And have not actually come back to it to read the whole thing until now. So I got this from my library with interlibrary loan, and here we are reading through the whole. Here I am reading through the whole thing for the first time. It's by Jeff Smith, who was the author of the original Bone series, but illustrated by another guy. And you can immediately tell if you look at this that the illustration styles are different, which is one of those things that is jarring at first because you're used to Jeff Smith's artwork, but you get used to it quick enough. The font, though, I don't know, the font bugs me a little bit. There are a few panels here where the font just seems to be a little bit faded. Yeah, what's going on with that font? I'm not a fan, but maybe that's just a personal preference. Interestingly enough, I discovered doing some research on this and looking this up on Wikipedia that this was originally published as a comic book, not as a graphic novel, so in 2000, 2001, and 2002. There are 15 chapters here. According to Wikipedia, it came out in 3 comic books, so I'm guessing it must have been 5 chapters to a comic book. But, sorry, the point I want to make, these dates are when the original Bone Epic was still being serialized. So I had imagined, before I did my research, that after the Bone Epic was finished, somebody wanted to make more money out of these characters, so they got an idea to do a prequel. But that's actually not correct. This prequel came out before the original epic was even done being serialized. So, yeah, I guess in that respect, it was maybe part of the original conception of Bone, or at least part of the original run of the Bone series. Despite having read the whole epic at one time, at this moment in time, some of the later issues are not so fresh in my memory. Some of the later books are not so fresh in my memory. And somebody other than me will have to critique this for how well the continuity fits into the epic proper. I mean, I think everything works, but I'm not 100% sure. Somebody else will have to take up that question. I'll just maybe review this as a story. Yeah, it's okay. It's a little bit underwhelming, but it is mildly interesting, and it's short enough that you finish the whole thing off before you even know it. I mean, you can see here, this is a slender volume, clocks in at just 137 pages, and these are small pages with lots of big pictures. So, reads really quickly. The original Bone Epic, as I've mentioned oftentimes in my reviews, was notable for the way it combined cartoonish humor with a Tolkien-esque Lord of the Rings style epic. This book attempts no such juggling act. We are going straight in for the darker side of the epic story. And you can see that here. There's a dragon and some rather graphic pictures of the dragon's hands being chopped off. I thought this was interesting because when I looked at the Amazon page for this, it's done by Scholastic, and this book was labeled one of the Teacher's Choice Picks Award. Certainly I can't imagine any of my elementary school teachers recommending this. Of course, I grew up in a conservative environment, but still, one can't help but think that standards have changed a little bit. But there you go. This is the book in which Rose finds out that her sister Briar is evil. Briar had apparently become evil long before this story happened, but this is where Rose finds out her sister's evil. Oh, by the way, I'm going to spoil everything. Full-on spoilers. Lucius Down, who is the bartender Lucius from the Bone Epic proper, is here as a young man, and his relationship with Rose is, you can see the beginnings of their romantic infatuation with each other, which again is something we get from the epic proper. There is a dragon which has been released by Briar, or actually it was inadvertently by Rose, who released it in a dream, not knowing what she was doing. She wants to defeat the dragon to make up for what she has done. And she talks to the red dragon, who is the good dragon in the Bone series. And he says, he can be defeated, but there is a price to pay. What is the price? What is it? The price is, you will kill the first living creature you lay eyes upon. Sorry, that wasn't a good explanation. When the deed is done, so when you have killed the dragon, you will kill the first living creature you lay eyes upon. This is the price you have to pay for killing the dragon. Because something about balance in the dreaming. Blah, 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 blah. So when I first read this, I thought, oh, that's just stupid. I mean, I know there's something here about balance in the dreaming or creating an imbalance in the dreaming, but it doesn't read like something that comes authentically from the logic of the story or the logic of the world that has been set up. It reads like a rule that the author has just made up to add some sort of stupid dilemma at the end of this. And indeed, it does add a stupid dilemma at the end of this. Rose accepts this without any hesitation and doesn't really seem to be thinking about who the first creature she's going to lay eyes on is. I mean, she sets out with her dogs. Oh, I forgot to mention this. Rose has 2 talking dogs, although only she can understand what they're saying, but they do talk to her. Their names are Euclid and Cleo. So then she kills the dragon, and you think to yourself, oh, okay. Well, this is going to be stupid. Her dog, of course, is going to be the first living creature that she sees because that's the companion that she takes to kill the dragon, and then she's going to have to sacrifice her dog. You can see that coming a mile away, right? But actually, what I didn't see coming, what was a little bit of a twist that I appreciated, even though I thought the rule was kind of dumb, was the first person she sees was her sister Briar, who's been transformed into a wizened old maid because of the locusts. Sorry. An old crone is how they phrase it, to punish her for her failure. So this should be the person that Rose kills. But Briar pleads for mercy, and she says, kill the dog instead. You saw it at almost the same time. The dragon won't kill if you substitute as long as the balance is maintained. Please, sister. So, we don't see the scene, but we know what choice she made because she comes back and she tells her other dog that Cleo is not coming. She had to give her life to spare Briar's life. And it ends with the death of the dragon being celebrated, the bad dragon, but the red dragon is looking at this scene ominously. So you certainly get the impression from his eyes he knows there's some cheating going on. Now, a lot of things are left ambiguous here. For example, does it matter that one life was substituted for another? I mean, was there some sort of magic rule that it had to be the first thing that she laid eyes upon, or was it just a life, any life was good enough? Did the dragon want Briar to be sacrificed? Does the dragon know what's going to happen now that Briar is still alive? We, the reader, know what's going to happen because Briar has been left alive. at least if we've been reading the Bone Epic proper. And now again, this was published before the Bone Epic had finished, but I think midway through the Bone Epic it was revealed that Briar and the Hairy Men had been responsible for killing Rose's daughter and son-in-law. So her own children are going to be dead because of her decision to spare her evil sister. Does the dragon see this? Or is the dragon just... Yeah. A lot is left ambiguous, and I guess you can like that or not like that. I think it works quite well, actually. In spite of the fact that that rule about maintaining balance seemed to come out of nowhere, I think this ending does kind of seem suitably chilling, given what we, the reader, know is going to happen later in the future. Wikipedia points out, although I think I knew this already, that these two talking dogs are the only characters that do not appear in the proper Bone Epic. I'm sure what Wikipedia means to say is the only major characters. There are all sorts of background characters like these ones. I don't believe are supposed to be any major characters in the Bone Epic. But yeah, of the major characters in this prequel, it's the two dogs are the only ones we never hear about. Of course, one dog is dead at the end of the story, so there's that. And then dogs live shorter lives than humans, so that could easily explain why the other dog wasn't around in the Bone Epic. So all in all, well, what can you say? I'm not sure I'd recommend anyone pay money for this, but if you, like me, can get this out from your local library easily enough, and you are also reading the Bone series, then why not just throw this one along as well? It's not essential, but it's interesting enough for what it is.